Hello, good afternoon and salam alaikum. We will start in 5 minutes because a lot of people have registered. So just we'll wait for people to join and thank you so much. Thank you so much for your patience. Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon. Yeah, my name is Salim Desai. I'm Chief Financial Officer of Al Razi Holding Company, and I welcome you all for this initiative taken by our chairman, Mr. Badr Al Sayer. Mr. Badr Al Sayer, as per his instruction or his suggestion, we have started this excellent initiative. I'm audible? Just raise your hand.
Yes, possible. Yeah.
Okay. As per suggestion of our chairman, Mr. Badr Al Sayer, we have started this excellent initiative whereby we thought of getting benefit of in-house expertise to our staff, so that we have various businesses expertise in education, medical field, marketing, finance, so on and so forth. So on that basis, we have started this initiative. Maybe 2-3 months back. Initially, we had conducted training of Excel professional Excel, which we had a huge response. So we thought of we'll take one presentation or one guidance seminar from our expertise, Mr. Sevag. Because now, because of this COVID, COVID is a contemporary subject now, and everybody is suffering. We are suffering as staff also, and we are suffering as a parent also. So, how to find out the ways post-COVID, how it has affected our children, and what are the ways ahead after post-COVID. So this is what we are expecting some guidance from Mr. Sevag. Let me introduce Mr. Sevag. He is incoming superintendent of our group school, American Creativity Academy. He is a passionate academician, and he takes pride in his academic credentials. Plus, he is expertise in IB curriculum. So he will guide us to this our subject today, that how to help our child to achieve an academic post-academic potential and a post-COVID. So whatever we lost or we thought of we are missing, not lost maybe, he can help us from technical, from legal, from academic side, his expertise. So I'll not take much time, and I will give podium or presentation time to him. And this session will be just as a guidance, as a meeting protocol. We will keep everyone on mute. Okay. Mr. Sevag will have his presentation, his thought. And during this presentation, because he always likes to have interactive presentation. So, but just to control the meeting and this one, please raise your hand so that we can unmute you, or you yourself unmute and raise the question so that he can reply it. Okay, but let us follow this meeting protocol so that it will be useful for everyone. So thank you so much, and let us welcome Mr. Sevag. Mr. Sevag.
Thank you, Mr. Salim.
Yes.
Thank you very much for the introduction and the opportunity. Thank you to the chairman, and welcome everyone to this, I hope, wonderful conversation or presentation. Let me share my screen here with the presentation that I've put together. Okay. So as the topic indicates, it's to help your child achieve an academic post-COVID experience. And if you are surprised with the picture that I have chosen for this presentation, it was not my choice. It was the Microsoft's choice of the new feature of design to tell that this is a good kind of starting page for your presentation. And the thing that I liked about this picture is more about the emerging aspect of this plant. And I think it fits perfectly fine with our emerging experience, as all of us are going through this pandemic and then emerging from it in a way or another, as our children are coming out of this pandemic, and we are coming out of this pandemic, and then you as parents. So I think it's a perfect start to our presentation. So I want to welcome you as parents of students. If you are parents, if you are siblings of some students in different schools, welcome to our sister companies of the American Creativity Academy. And we will try to look at the topic today from the eyes of the children. As much as I can, I'll try to put the perspective of our children and then see how they see things or how they expect things from their perspective. And at the same time, if you were taking care of a child during this pandemic, it seems you have become a professional teacher by now, or you have become a coach, or you've become a facilitator. And maybe if you want to leave your job at El Sayed or Rez, we can offer you jobs at ACA as teachers right now. That was my little joke. You know, we have our way our way of doing teachers or selecting teachers. Well, To start, I think it's very important to acknowledge the topic. Like, why is this topic an important topic today? And I really appreciate Mr. Salim's initiative of the topic, and we've talked about it. Like, this is an important topic that we want to talk about. And the importance comes from the challenges that we are facing as parents. And myself, I'm a parent of two students, ACA students. And the challenge that we faced as parents, as you have to balance your work with the taking care of the children, and then also if you have more than one children, who's taking care of the older one, who's taking care of the younger one. Like the wife is taking care of the languages, the husband is taking care of the sciences. It's like, how was this done at home? Was real. Like at a point, this became our daily life or our daily job, finishing the job at home or at work, and then taking care of the kids. And however you did that balance, I think we did it. It's over the year now, and we've gone through this experience, and then we did it. But some of the questions that I think that went through our minds as parents were like, am I doing enough? Is this enough for my kids or not? If my child was living away from me or they are living with me, even if they are in university right now, what are they doing? How are they performing their work? Are they doing it or not doing it? So I think there was a lot of questions and still in our minds as parents, am I doing enough for my child? And when the report cards come out, it's like the report card of the family. It's like the wife who was taking care of the subjects. Now it's suddenly the report card of everyone in the family. So I think we lived this experience in a very interesting way, all of us. And if I take the journey of the challenges faced during the stages of this pandemic from a child's perspective, first, suddenly in March 2020, they told me as a child, stay at home, don't come to school. We will see what we will do with you as a kid. And then we did some things, and then the year was over. And this applied in Kuwait for all students in Kuwait. And then suddenly we started the second year or a continuation, which was the full academic year, again, in a totally different way. Me as a child, I'm not used to this way of doing things, but suddenly I am forced to do this way. And then, of course, next year, as the upcoming year where we don't know what this looks like, and this is not to scare people, but it's to just look at the reality that there are blended approaches, hybrid approaches, full attendance, half attendance. I'm sure that you as parents are hearing all these different buzzwords right now about hybrid, blended, half attendance, and so on. So I think as children were going through all these stages, the threat was still the same. The virus is still around, the pandemic is still going on, and the child is going through this roller coaster of experiences as we are taking care of them. So if we look at the impact of this situation on our children, the very first impact that they faced, as you can all relate, is the change in their physical environment. And then the physical environment suddenly became a different environment. And then the non-physical environment came a different environment. And we will talk a little bit more about the differences. Suddenly the classroom is changed into a virtual classroom. And then the studying means something different. Before it was listening to the parent, to the teacher, lecturing, and then doing certain work at school. Now I don't have that person on top of my head all the time, and then checking if I'm doing things or not doing things. I have my parents, I have my siblings. The whole definition of the studying for a child has changed, and this applies for all the students who have had a school experience. If you look at our KG students and focus for a minute on our KG students or the younger students, they never felt or had a good maybe experience of learning except this one. So their understanding of school now is a screen, or their understanding of learning is an online something. So I think they went through a different challenge, and then everybody else went through a different challenge. Like every kid took this in a different way. So the classroom now became the bedroom, the living room, whatever was available in the house, and especially if there were more than one kid, I take this space, you take that space argument. And of course, the whole definition, as I said, changed from the face-to-face, from the lecturing into a different way of doing learning. And new words came up suddenly as a child. What is synchronous? What is that longer word, asynchronous? Like, what's the difference between these words? I think as a child or students altogether heard all of these words as they were going through many other challenges, which are the health challenges. So for them, learning now or studying had a different meaning. And my focus is, of course, on the studying or the learning part. And I want to differentiate a little bit the learning from education in general. And this is my understanding, and I want to share it with you the way that I see learning versus education. By learning, one can understand learning of a subject, the math, the sciences, the language, and so on. By education, I understand developing the whole child. And then we're talking about the social emotional, the well-being of the child, their personality, their physical personality, and all that relates to the overall education of the child. And I want to make this distinction because later on I want to focus more on what did we miss in general. Did we miss learning or did we miss the education? Did we lose a lot of knowledge or did we lose education? And I want to differentiate between these two from my perspective. So whenever we say learning from now on, it's the subject. Whenever we say education, is the whole child. So as we or the kids moved into the learning in all the stages of learning, suddenly expectations started increasing. Expectations of schools, expectations of parents, your expectation from the children. So different expectations create different atmospheres for the children. And of course, different expectations, it means they want to satisfy the different person or the different expector. And then hence children were living in this whole situation of who do I satisfy more? And especially when parents and schools have different expectations. And the schools were expecting, and this is a general statement, schools in general were expecting the kids to be able to do work by themselves and then be self-motivated and then learn on their own because you know how to do it as a child. And then, of course, teachers telling parents, don't interfere, stay away from the screen, or don't share things with the children. We are doing the job, not you are doing the job. And on the other hand, you as parents, you had your set of expectations, I am sure, from the children, like you have to attend, this is a good opportunity, and then ask, don't be shy. And the kid is sitting in front of a screen with 25 kids, and then it's not like can I say what I want to say, or I want to talk to my friend, how can I do that? You know, all these restrictions with the systems that we introduced. So I think that your expectations were somehow shared with your kids, and then the expectations of the schools. And of course, the third expectation is the teachers. Different teachers have their own expectations, and every teacher has their own way of doing things. And then who's in the middle of all this? Our poor children. Maybe I defend the children more than anyone, and even in my job, that's my basic role of defending the child all the time. But the message that I want to say in this slide is that having different expectations does not help a child, and it confuses the child. So that's why it's very important that the school's expectations, the parents' expectations, and individual teachers' expectations are more or less aligned all the time so that the child eventually lives a successful experience. So in the past, whatever happened during the virtual year in terms of those expectations, it could have been different. But everyone was going through a hard time. It was not like the teachers were happy teaching or happily living their life, or you as parents or students. But I think if you look at overall the education and whatever papers are coming out right now from research, from people or scientists who have been researching this topic, they have been producing that there is a lot of positive things that we can see in this experience more than the negatives that we thought or parents would think or even educators would think. So before we go into the advice or the positive things or the differentiation, it's also worth to look at the impact of the pandemic on the physical and the mental health of our students and also you as parents. Stress is the number one. I think all of you would agree with me that stress is the number one feature of fatigue that we went, or the cause of fatigue that we went all through. Because of the unknown, we don't know what's going on. Kids don't know what's going on. And then the whole medical situation. There were families where they had cases of COVID in the families, either the elder people or the younger people, ICU patients. And the child is sitting and observing all this, and then meanwhile attending class and doing homework and all that. And then in their mind, there's this stress going on about what's happening next. Is this going to happen to me? Is this going to happen to my parents, to my loved ones? So this stress of the mental stress that the kids went through is not little, or it's not something that we can say, they are kids, nothing is going to happen to them. On the contrary, kids do build a lot of things in their imagination, as you know, as parents, and then they build on conclusions. And especially if we don't tell them the right information, they build their own conclusions. And then we will talk about that in a minute. And then, of course, the emotional well-being of the kids in terms of they are away from their friends, they are away from their relatives, the cousins, they can't touch this person, they can't hug the other child. All of this has caused them more stress or more anxiety, if I can say. And that journey, going through this journey of emotions, is not easy for a child. We as adults go through journeys of emotions, and it's not easy for us. And I think for the children, it's even worse. And this social journey of, at one point you were allowed to hug your father or mother when they came back from work. Now you cannot. You have to wait until the washing, the shower, and everything is done, and then you can hug the father or give them the proper hello. So this also depends on our mood as parents. As we go home or as we are home and our kids were watching us doing our work, how was our mood? If our mood was happy, their mood could be happy. If we were upset, they were upset. So it's a transition kind of a feeling or a social situation or an emotional situation that transfers to the whole family. If you're sad, they are sad, or your sadness, depression goes to them. And the kids will always look at you and test you, like how are you doing today? Are you doing well? Can I say what I want to say, or I cannot say what I want to say? So all of that has happened in a situation where everything was so open in front of the kids. And then I'm sorry this is going on for just describing the situation, because I just want to acknowledge that this has been going on with many of our children. And this has been going on, and the advice, or what I think is a piece of advice, will come towards the end to what to do about it. But acknowledging and understanding it also, I think it's a very important tool to say you're not alone as a parent. Like, we are all going through this together, and many other parents around the world are going through this together. Now, the third point on this slide, which is a very important point for the child, is who to blame. Because I think in our school systems, in here or in the world also, we always have this guilt feeling going on. Like, the child doesn't do a test well, there has to be a consequence. The child doesn't behave well, there is a consequence. The child says something not right, there is a consequence. And there's someone to blame all the time. And of course, when this is happening as a world-scale pandemic, whose fault it is? Like, this child is looking at somebody at home getting the virus, or somebody is sick, and then automatically in their brain is it my fault? Did I do this? Like, what did I do wrong? So children will always go through this situation of, am I at fault? Am I the one which is mistaken? And of course, you guys know that all children are not the same. They are like different types of children. They take things differently. But overall, there is this thing in their mind that, am I the one to be blamed if something happens to my family? And especially if there is a death in the family, was I the cause of this death? So I think this is very big who to blame. And then as we go back to school in the future, this will continue to be a high alert on the minds of children that, am I the one who's going to bring the virus home? Am I the one who will cause pain in the family? So those are not big, those are very big concerns for the child, and they are in their brains. Now, as we go back to school, there are, of course, as you come from different schools or different backgrounds, you know that different schools are offering different models to go back, and then the government here has made their own decisions about how can we go back, or it's not clear even at this point, but what are the precautions? I think any model for the children to be back at this point is a good model. Of course, safety first, but then education second. But any model would be, I mean, all schools would be taking care of the children for sure. But at the same time, the expectations of the parents and students might be very high. Like you expect that the school will be doing A, B, C, D, so that I send my child to the school. And then there is this third party, which is the policymaker, which is the government, who does not have still clear indicators of how are we going to go back to school. But at the same time, you have your expectations. In the absence of a clear guideline, you have your expectations. I'm not sending my child to school unless the school does A, B, C, and D. And then those are all valid expectations. But again, don't forget that we are still going through a pandemic. The pandemic is not over yet. Even if we are going back to school, the pandemic is not over yet. So keep that in mind as we move forward. And as you look at the schools or different schools, how they are doing, you might always be comparing, like this school is doing this school is doing that. And my understanding of the preparations as we go back to school is every school is trying to do their best to get the kids into school. I think teachers are the most people after you, the parents, that want these kids back to school in front of a screen. So I think the message is clear overall that we want these kids into the schools. And your involvement as a parent in preparing your child to school is very important. And I have a couple of minor advice that I would give in the end, like how do you prepare your child to come back to school, especially with the mindset of the blame, and then how things can go wrong in the mind of a child. So having said that, the health precautions are, of course, all of us, we know what the health precautions are about. But my advice starts with number one, which is coordinated culture of health precautions between the home and school, to talk about it. I think that in general, the children, and especially after having a full year of access to the whole world through Google or whatever websites they have, they know, or they will find information. Even if you don't share it, they will go and search for information and come back to you with a question. Expect that they have done something before coming to you. They have done their research, they have done some asking. So when children come and ask about questions and things, please make sure that you take it well, and then you talk about it. Because if you don't, whatever they have read, right or wrong, whatever they have seen, right or wrong, is the only information that will stay in their mind. So it's very important that we coordinate this culture in the right way by talking to the children. And of course, being supportive, being positive to the child, not criticizing what they have read, not criticizing what they are thinking. It's very important that we accept with an open mind without judging them and saying, well, yeah, but this is what we think is right. It's very important that children feel that they are heard, and especially during this time that they are going in a very tough time. The second one, which is about the routines, especially for the younger kids, it's very important for you to talk to the teachers. If you don't know, if the school does not share or they don't have those precautions sent to you, I think it's easier to just ask the teachers. Connect with the teachers, ask the teacher, because it's very important for the child to have consistency. especially for KG and elementary. If you say something at home and then the teacher says something at school, guess what? Whatever the teacher says is more important than whatever the parent says for most of the kids. So it's very important that you coordinate the routines for the kids, for them to have consistent messages that goes into their brains instead of confusing or contradicting messages. And the last part, which is I think is key, and I want to spend a minute there. During next year, it is expected, and I hope it's not, but it's expected that there will be cases in schools. It's expected that schools have their own protocols, which is pretty much the same of if a child is identified with symptoms, we isolate the rest, and then we confirm the case. There are procedures in the schools which we are developing. It is very important that we as parents draw a picture of this child who is a patient of the virus. I want to emphasize the word patient, because that kid who got the virus in the school is a patient. He is not a terrorist or a bad person or a dirty person or an irresponsible person. It's very important for children to understand that the person who got the virus is a sick person, is a patient. It's not a person that I don't want to talk with, and then they are the ones who caused this, and so on and so forth. And this comes a lot from you as parents. How do you draw the picture of this child who has a COVID case in school? Because this will happen as we move forward next year. Now, towards the heart and then the conclusion of this presentation, I hope you're not sick yet of listening to this monotone conversation, one person talking to the screen. The part where it deals with studies, like what is it that the kids or children lost? This conversation, of course, I'm sure it happened in all schools, and it happened in our school with our leadership team. And I want to bring to you what our team thinks, and this is not my thinking only, it's our collective thinking of our school. And I'm sure and I hope other schools are doing the same or thinking the same. We differentiate the two things of educational gap from a knowledge gap. So I think that it's very important that we acknowledge that, yes, there might be some knowledge gap that happened. There might be some reading, math concepts, and there are, excuse me, researchers right now about what has been lost. Some companies, assessment companies, have already made their decision of kids are losing this many years of this many years of that. I think there is a different perspective to looking into this, and the different perspective is the educational gain that we have given to the kids, not willingly. It's not like we were planning this to happen, but it did happen. And by talking about an educational gain, I'm talking about a profile of a student who is now more confident, a student who is more creative, a student who is more able to look for information by himself or herself, a student who has research abilities more than before, a student who is more has this entrepreneurial approach to things. Let me go and search for this. Let me go and find out for this. This self-motivation has increased over the year with our students, to the point where I think it will be a threat to the teachers when they are back into school, that how are we going to deal with the children, right? So having said that, this student now is more a capable student. It's not the same student as we had before. He's more of a capable kid, even if they have lost some knowledge, some math, some English. There's always time to recover all this content, but let us focus on the bigger gains that we have had. So that's why I think the third part here, I don't know if you can see my slides now, the catching up with the studies. Mr. Salim, can you see this part now?
The slides are not moving.
Are you at? Okay, we can do this again. Here. We're good?
Yeah, now it's good.
Okay, thank you for that. So the third part, which is about the focus on the skills and then empowering these skills, and this is what I think as parents we can utilize. Whatever that knowledge was lost is a knowledge lost, which schools will recover it. Sooner or later, we will teach them how to do the multiplication. Sooner or later, we will teach them how to do the reading part or the spelling part and all these things. But the gain that we gained as a school or as parents, I think it's huge. And let's emphasize on that. Please capitalize on what did we gain from this pandemic. And I think more confident kids, more creative kids, more self-directed kids, self-determined kids. Those are the characteristics that we have gained through this pandemic. So to conclude those thoughts, I believe that instead of identifying this pandemic as education interrupted, I want to say that education is accelerated. And I think that during this year, you and us, parents and schools, have created this culture of a well-developed child who's able to do much more than what we were able to do in the classrooms. And all this, whatever I'm saying, I have some research papers that I've based myself on, but also whenever you talk about research, there is always opposite research also to it. I'm a believer of this part where it says education will be accelerated with the children. And the other thing that I think we learned very well is that the K-12 schools are very important. Yes, we do babysit kids in the school, but we educate them. They learn and they get educated. So physically having schools has turned out to be a very important indicator for the community. Now, having said that, here is my advice. I think the whole presentation to the parents can be summarized in 2 words. First, be patient, and second, be flexible. So it's very important to say this word, be patient, but what does it mean to be patient? Or be flexible, what does it mean to be being flexible? So I have a couple of thoughts I want to share with you, and I want to end it there. When I say be patient, I think there are a couple of things you have to be patient with. Number one is be patient with your child and be patient with your teacher or the teacher of your child. And when I say the teacher, I mean these teachers are trying to do their best. It's not like they are at war with the parents or the kids. Teachers, wherever they are, they have, I would say most of them, like maybe 99% of the teachers, they want the best of your children. So be patient and trust the teacher, but at the same time communicate with your child. I think it's very important for the child to hear and listen to you, or even sometimes talk, and then simply just sitting with them and then showing interest, love, care to the child. They will be feeling more secure instead of being like, I don't know what's going on, this whole pandemic, I don't know what's going to happen next. On the contrary, when they feel the love, when they feel the care, they will be feeling more secure. And then to be flexible, I put the first thing being flexible is to be positive. I think whenever we have cases with our children, it's my way versus the highway, you do it this way or not. I would ask that you become more flexible with the children, especially during this time. Listen to their way, even if it doesn't make sense sometimes, just listen to their way. By listening, you can acknowledge sometimes that maybe they have something in their way. Also, allow them time to fix their behaviors. Behaviors like something wrong happens, just give time, like the first time, second time, third time. This is the flexibility that we can exercise with our children. And then, sometimes give them some way to do things. I think we just created collectively wonderful kids who can do things by themselves. So allow them to shine with your flexibility. Having said that, my concluding thing is also for you. And before thanking you, I want to say, as parents, you also have to take care of yourselves. As the example of the planes, they always tell you about the oxygen masks. Take care of yourself first and then the child. I think it's the same thing for us. If we don't take care of ourselves, we will not be taking care of our children. Making time for yourself and then giving breaks to yourself and then I think if you're not well, you will not be able to take care of your child. So take care of yourself so that you can take care of the children also at the same time. So that's it. Thank you. I hope it was 30 minutes. We're good.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Sevag. I think people are very curious and to ask questions, so I will not take much time. I will take one by one. I think Miss Mona, can you? Yeah, I have unmuted.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for the fruitful presentation. It was amazing and touchy because as parents, we are in this. Just quickly, I had an issue with my girl because she is only a girl and she's never been to school. And unfortunately, her first experience with education was the KG1, which was a nightmare. And the outcome for that at the beginning, it was a disaster and started to ease by time. And at the end, she was fine. But the only thing that happened, number one, she got really attached to the iPad. And this is something that now I cannot tell her, no, don't use it. It's not good. Because she was on using this iPad minimum 3 hours a day for a full year now online. So any tactics or something to assist in keeping children away of such a device, because as long as it was useful, it's harmful. And the second thing is the boredom. I felt the kids are bored at the end of the at the end of the year. At the beginning, it was they didn't want to, and then they became so excited. But from being in front of the iPad for very long hours, I felt like whenever now I say there is a class, she's bored. She don't want. No, I want to sleep. She's not enthusiastic, and still I'm trying to to make her more optimistic about her upcoming school year. I hope that it starts as we think, but I think it's still challenging to convince her to go, because for her the whole education thing was a source of boredom and somehow. So if you can give me just any points about that to improve the upcoming experience for her. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Mona. Well, I'll try to answer the two parts very in a way. The first part about the device, I think we face the same challenge as a school and all schools, that exactly the day before the pandemic started or the schools were closed, devices were forbidden in schools. There were policies in schools, this device is forbidden, you cannot use your phone, you cannot use iPad, you have to use this laptop, that laptop the school provided. Within a day, that policy changed because of the need. I think that this is now a carried on problem that we will go for the future with the device itself. But I have two helpful things that I can share with you. Number one is, as the school starts, there is a way to talk about the device with the teacher. I think there is an agreement between you and the teacher, specifically for your daughter, that when the child hears two different perspectives about the same problem, and especially the perspective of the teacher, they will be more likely to accept it and then doing it. The way that I say this is because of, if the teacher says like, you will need to use your device for learning X number of hours, that becomes the rule of the house. And then you, as a parent, you're implementing the rule. Now, if you're only the one making the rule and implementing the rule, the child might be like sometimes against this concept of you put the rule, you're implementing the rule, and it doesn't work. That's one, like talking to the teacher and finding a way to limit it. The second one is more about, I've heard this, certain parents have used this technique, charging the device once and then allowing them to use the device at their will according to the charged amount. Like, for example, you could say that this is the device, charged 100%, and then you can use it until it discharges in 2 days or 3 days. So the child then will know that I can use the device today for 3 hours, tomorrow for 4 hours, the day after 5 hours, until I charge it again. Some parents, for the younger kids, for the KG ones, have used this technique, and I've heard some good results of this. I don't know if it works for your child or not. But then when it comes to the boredom part, I think that's not a problem of your child only. It was a problem of teachers, administrators, everyone. But the way to resolve it, I think it's more of there's not much you can do from your side as a parent to change the perspective of the child. I think this is a much bigger issue, but at the same time, giving something else to the child as they are doing the learning, so that they feel like there is a balance of things. Because last year, and the biggest issue last year was the iPad was for learning, but the iPad was also for playing. In the child's mind, am I playing or am I learning? So they were also lost in the balance of the two things. So I think that give it some time. I hope next year that when we start schools, or however we start schools, this topic of boredom, it's something that you can discuss it with the child, and then with the teacher also, to find ways to compensate that boredom. But towards the end of the year, all of us, we went through the same experience. I hope that answered the question.
Thank you so much.
Next is Fahid Abad Juman, please.
Hi, good afternoon, gentlemen and ladies. My question is twofold. One is we are hearing that schools will be opening for the next couple of months to come, two months to come, probably September or August. What plans do schools have in general to ensure that there is the safety of our kids is taken care of? Will there be distancing in the classroom as well, or they'll all be packed in the same classroom as usual before? Second thing, we hear in different parts of the world, whenever there's a lockdown, at least the kids are, given chances to move around, to go to different playgrounds and so on and so forth. I don't see it here in Kuwait. Can the union of schools in Kuwait propagate for such things to happen, so that our kids don't get that boredom, and get that refreshments with playing outside in something of that kind?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Fahid. I think for the plans for the schools, there are many plans right now. The Ministry of Education, in combination with the Ministry of Health, they produced a document in January of 2021 about the health precautions, and they have done the social distancing of 2 meters between the two students inside the classroom, which, according to, if you take an average class size with 25 kids, 2 meters social distancing, you end up with 7 kids in the classroom. And then in the same document, you have the same document indicates the social distancing to be 1 meter. And if you implement 1 meter of social distancing with an average size classroom, the classroom ends with 12 or 13 kids. So the information is there, but it's not accurate or clear. All we know right now is that there is a plan of schools to be back. And schools, they don't know yet if we are going to use the January 2021 requirements, which we have a plan for it as schools. I'm sure many schools have it. They have published it also. And at the same time, these guidelines did not have anything about the vaccines. So we don't know what to do with vaccine situations. So we're also waiting for indicators or guidelines from the ministry. But here is what I think. When it comes to planning and then bringing kids to school, and especially in Kuwait, and this has been my reading or my understanding of the situation in Kuwait. In Kuwait, especially the families, other than ourselves as the expats, the Kuwaiti families usually, or most of the Kuwaiti families they live in large groups, like the grandfather, the grandmother. In many of the families that at least we have seen in our school, they live with large number of family members in a large area. So what happens usually is that it's not like the United States or the other countries or in Europe, where families are smaller units. The unit of family that we have here in Kuwait, and I'm talking about the Kuwaiti families especially, and this is my understanding because our clientele have been 95% Kuwaiti families. It's the size of the family is larger than the average size in different countries, which means that if the virus is transferred to the family, the chances are that the impact will be huge. So I understand the rules or the guidelines of the the ministry here and the precautions of how important it is that the schools are not becoming a hub for transferring the virus. But at the same time, the downside of that is the children are not coming to school like in other countries. So when I compare the other countries to Kuwait, that's my guiding thing, that the family size of Kuwait is different. The second part, which is the readiness of the schools, the guidelines are clear. You have to have the temperature check, information tracking, all these guidelines are clear. The only guideline, and the most important, which is not there, is the number of kids in the classroom. So once that is decided and the social distancing is decided, then the schools will be able to say, yep, we will go this way or that way. I know some schools, they published already their plans. We are not going to publish our plans as ACA until we know something more firm, something more accurate, so we don't confuse people also at the same time. And then playing, the part with the playing has been also a huge issue with even inside the schools, where activities are limited, canceled, and then allowing kids to play outside. And then there were things like they cannot use equipment to play with, but they can use their bodies to play. But then how do you guarantee that these kids are not touching with no symptoms, and then the virus is not spread? You asked, Mr. Fahid, a very difficult question, and the answer to that, I don't know if I have it, but this is the perspective that I can share with you. I hope it helps.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next question. Has any query?
I think it's either it was so good.
I have another question. Do you think any possibility of having a hybrid model of education coming up?
I don't only think, what's the word? I want actually that such a blended or a hybrid possibility to come up. And I'm not saying this only for the post-COVID, but I think many schools on the planet after the COVID have to look for blended approaches. And blended or hybrid does not necessarily mean staying home or coming to school. Blended or hybrid particularly mean how students learn through technology and how they learn without technology. So I think all schools, it's my wish, and I hope we can, in ACA at least we will do it, that we will build a blended approach for the future, not only for the post-pandemic, how do we return to schools, but for the further future. But just to get back to school, I think, yes, hybrid models are right now on the table. Many of the schools ourselves also have considered different blended models, half attendance models, different shift attendance models, and those are all on the table. But none of this is ready to be published yet, but all of this is being discussed right now.
I think that also still will be affecting the smaller kids, especially that they are at lower risk of infection, but they are in a very bad status of getting the proper education, the proper teacher, kids, disciplinary daily acts, and having fun and socializing. I don't know, really, I feel pity for the personality of the kids, and my kid is one of them. But let's hope that everything goes fine and everything be on ease for them. Thank you.
Mona, I feel the challenge coming in your voice.
Yes,
and
because
I totally
she's
agree.
not a normal. See, I feel that their childhood, it's not like ours. We still remember when we were kids, we were running and moving and going to playgrounds and having friends and neighbors. Now everything, no, don't talk to too much people, don't play alone, don't take care of COVID. And her age is so critical. She's only 4 years and now she's heading 5. So I think that's the most critical age in any kid's personality, So I hope that they find a proper way to make everything on ease for them, especially for that critical age. I hope so. I'm optimistic. I'm not pessimistic, but sometimes I feel like a mom and a working mom, and I go home and then nothing to do except to stay home. So it's just like challenging for them, and that's all.
I agree with you 100%, but I just want to add that in education, especially that your daughter is still young, education is not the result of 1 year or 2 years or 3 years. I think the whole 15 or sometimes more when they go to university, education is a continuum. And then whenever we face parents, for example, and we have had cases that students are not doing well or things are not working, we always have hope that the year after, the year after, and the year after, we will do something much better for them. So I think the transition back to school will be the next big challenge. And then how school looks like next year will be a big challenge. That's the second big challenge. But as we move forward, educationally, things will be better. And then concepts-wise or knowledge-wise, schools will catch up very, very, very quickly because the kids are much better kids today than a year ago. That's my belief. That's the research that I like to read, that kids today are the much better version of the kids. Actually, Ms. Muna, the worry is that, and this is a worldwide worry as I've attended some sessions, that there are many schools, or the fear is that many schools will go back to their old version of doing things. And then as they go back to the old version of doing things, we will have a huge challenge of students who are more capable today, but a system which is an old system. So for us in ACA, we don't want to be that. We want to be a different caliber of a school, taking the new student and then matching our education to them. But the fear is that some schools will go backwards.
Thank you so much. There is one more question, maybe Rasha.
Thank you so much, Michael.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you, Mr. Sevag. Just I have one question. I think what you have talked about, it's applicable for younger kids or kids at middle school. What about high school, or especially kids at senior year? How shall we deal with them?
Thank you, Rasha. With the senior students, and actually my definition of child goes up to grade 12, up to 18. And there are many techniques which, the ones that I have shared, they will apply to all the grade levels, especially listening to the kids, spending time with them, listening to their concerns, and then valuing what they are thinking. As you know, they are more independent now. They have their own world. They want to do the whatever they think is right. But at the same time, if you leave them alone, they will build their own thinking. That's why it's very important that until they are graduating from school, they are treated as bigger children or more adult children, but still children. I think the minute you stop as a parent listening or showing love or taking care of them, then it vanishes. The students build their own personalities. We have had many instances of, and of course, not all kids are the same. Some students need more attention, some students need more or less attention or more independence. And that depends on you as a parent to know how to work with your child. But at the same time, the basic rules of taking care of them, listening to them, showing the love, communicating, following up with their grades. Many of the schools have the systems to follow up with the grades, just to start the communication. The problem starts when you start judging them. The age groups, especially the middle school, when they become very rebellious, and then as they go to the high school when they become extremely rebellious, those are the times when judging and criticizing works less and less and less. The conversation works much better. Like, tell me more about this grade. How did this end this way? Why you didn't submit it? But not criticizing it, but taking it as an opportunity. Again, with one case, you cannot solve the whole world's problems. But with one case, you can destroy this student's or child's acceptance to come back and talk to you. You can close the door with one case, but you cannot solve the problem with one case. So my advice is pretty much the same formulas, but at different levels.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I think we are coming to end of the session. Anyone has any question, or should we say thank you, Mr. Sevag, your
Thank you.
insight. Very informative presentation, contemporary subject, and I'm sure that people must have benefited from this program. So thank you once again. Thank you once and all, everyone for joining. And thank you, Mr. Sevag. See you soon.
Thank you.
Keep well, stay safe, take care. Bye-bye.
And you too. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Ah.